So I wanted to apologize again that I missed another episode of Ben's Tech Advice, but don't worry, I will be back with that this week, and I don't know, I've just been busy, sorry. But it will be coming back. I'm not closing down the series or anything, so don't you worry. Hey guys, what's up? It's me again, and in this video, I just wanted to address some false information for this next What Do I Think episodes. And this is involved with Apple's naming ability in terms of naming the iPhones, specifically the iPhones. And why am I saying just the iPhones? Well, here's why. Because Apple just gives it simple names, like iPhone, iPhone 3G, iPhone 3GS, iPhone 4, iPhone 4S. And then there are those people who refer to the iPhones as different names. For example, the first iPhone, they refer to it as the iPhone 2G. Well, that makes sense because the iPhone first generation did house a 2G radio in there, so which is basically used for edge connection, and edge connection is a 2G. It doesn't specifically say 2G in terms of the data networking at the top, but that is edge. And then we have the iPhone 3G, and the reason why Apple named it the iPhone 3G is because that was the first iPhone to have 3G networking with AT&T. Because the first iPhone didn't have 3G networking, now the iPhone 3G has it. And then we have the iPhone 3GS. It basically just kept the name, except they added one more letter, which was the S, which stands for speed. And then, of course, they give it a new name with a new design, calling it the iPhone 4, and then the next phone was the iPhone 4S with some cosmetic exterior changes. For instance, somebody in one of my science classes had an iPhone first generation out, and then he told me, "Hey Ben, look, I got the iPhone second generation." I'm like, "Dude, that's not the second generation, that's the first iPhone." He said, and he was telling me, "What are you talking about? It's the iPhone 2G." And I was like, "Yeah, it is the iPhone 2G, but that's actually the first generation iPhone. People just refer to it as an iPhone 2G. And the reason why he says that's the second generation iPhone is because iPhone 2G, sometimes it can mean iPhone second generation. I get that, but the reason why people refer the first iPhone as the iPhone 2G is because it housed a 2G radio inside, which is basically edge connection. In fact, that was actually the iPhone first generation. The iPhone first generation had a silver back with a black bottom piece for the antenna system, and that was built in 2007, and at that time it was just called iPhone. And then I told him that I had the second iPhone, which was the iPhone 3G, this phone right here, and then he was like, "No, you have the third iPhone, because 3G is third generation." What? Okay, first of all, my response to that is, this guy, he doesn't really know the Apple world. Not trying to make fun of him or anything, but he doesn't really know the history behind the iPhone. You guys see what I'm saying? So then let's say if I were to ask this person, okay, well, what generation is the iPhone 3GS? What's he gonna say? The 3.5 generation? Fourth generation? 3.25 generation? I don't think so. So the way Apple names their products, it definitely does make sense, but the way people refer to it differently, it just kind of throws everybody off. The reason why we have those numbers 2G, 3G, 4G is for the iPod Touch. We have the iPod Touch first generation, then the iPod Touch second generation, also referred to as the iPod Touch 2G. Okay, 2G is second generation, iPod Touch 3G, third generation, iPod Touch 4G, fourth generation, and whatever the new iPod Touch fifth generation will be referred to it as the iPod Touch 5G. People started inheriting those names onto the iPhones, okay? So, guys, for those of you that say that the iPhone 2G is the second generation iPhone, you don't know what it was actually referred to as. Well, you probably might have, but you don't really know the real generation for that. In fact, what you can do is actually go into iTunes. So if you have an Apple ID, okay, yada yada yada, Apple actually does have some podcasts. God darn it, this thing thing's so slow. I'll be right back. Well, my iPhone's too slow, so I'm actually pulled up iTunes on my computer right here. So you guys go to iTunes and you search Apple in the search box, and then you go into the podcast section. They organized some of their podcasts into like little albums. No, not little albums, like albums in general, and then you find the one that says Apple Keynotes, and then once you find Apple Keynotes, you're going to scroll all the way down, and the name of it is Macworld San Francisco 2007 Keynote Address. Okay, Steve Jobs kicks off Macworld 2007. That's the description of it. In that keynote, Steve Jobs announced the first iPhone, and I guarantee you, if you are watching this and you think the iPhone 2G is the second generation iPhone, in this keynote that I'm referring to you is the announcement of the very first iPhone, and the iPhone 2G is the first generation iPhone, okay? You download that podcast. You don't have to download it. In fact, you could just hover over the number that it's assigned, in this case 21, and then you just hit play, and then just play from there, even though it's a free download. But if you do that, you don't have to download it at all. So, guys, what I'm trying to say is that the way Apple names their devices, it does kind of make sense. But don't you just wish that Apple just named it at least what? iPhone, iPhone 2, iPhone 3, iPhone 4, iPhone 5, instead of 3G, 3GS, and the next thing you know we have a 6GS phone, whatever, I don't know. Because it will have 6G networking. I have no clue what the future iPhone's name will be. But guys, just be aware of the history of the iPhones, okay? And like I said, refer to that podcast and see for yourself what was really the first iPhone. So my question to you guys, do you think that Apple's naming in the iPhone is very accurate? Or do you think it's just bizarre and then it just throws people off and then it just makes them think it's a different thing? Leave a comment down below. And remember, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. And remember this part. This is what I meant to say. The iPhone 2G is the iPhone first generation. So, if you are watching this, whoever was in my class and told me that, be aware of that. He's not going to watch this video anyway because he has no clue that I'm on here. So, unless somebody tells him. Which, I don't care. This is too long!